and welcome to the Uninformed College Football Rants podcast. I am your host, Jack Flanagan. We will begin with my personal top 10, which is often quite biased. We have number 1, Alabama. They're Alabama. We'll see how they play against Tennessee this week. Number 2, Michigan. We'll see how they do against Penn State. Number 3, USC. Utah, another big game. The top 3 all have really big games. Number 4, Ohio State. They're a really good team. Number 5, Georgia. That loss versus Missouri, or almost lost versus Missouri. Sorry, kind of sucked, but I think that they could get back on track. Number 6, Tennessee. Honestly, I think that they could shock Alabama today. Number 7, Clemson. I know I don't like them, but I'm finally putting them in my rankings. They play Florida State today. That could be a very big game. Number 8, Penn State. We'll see how they do against Michigan. If they win, they're back. If they don't, they're not. Number 9, Oklahoma State. Can't argue with the mullet. Number 10, Ole Miss. And our runner-ups are number 11, TCU, and 12, I know I hate to say it, UCLA.
Boo.
Boo. That is right. Now I must introduce our guest this week, our usual co-host, Keith Flanagan.
And USC Trojan superfan.
Yes. So, let's start with the New Year's Six. I think we need a preview. There are 6 bowl games this year. The semifinals are, let's see, I think it's Peach and Fiesta this year. What are we thinking for the semifinals? Do you have a prediction?
It's the same as everyone else's prediction. Like right now, you sort of got to assume it's Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Clemson. That's what everyone thinks.
Yes, that's fair. That's what most people think. I don't really think that. So, if you...
At the same time, there's still a whole season of football to go, right? And so all these top teams still have big challenges ahead of them, and the situation is fluid and uncertain.
Yes. In my book, I think that whoever wins the Michigan-Ohio State game gets a one-way ticket to the college football playoff. And maybe Penn State could sneak in there.
What if Penn State beats Michigan?
Well, then it's all up. What if they beat Ohio State too? Then they're in it. Mm-hmm. I could see Penn State going to the college football playoff.
So, it's too soon to tell, but that's the conventional wisdom about who the Big Four are.
If I'm saying not, it's going to happen, but...
I'm sorry, it's actually the Big Three. People think it's Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and then a big cutoff to whoever number 4 is.
Well, I think that Michigan could be up there, and I don't think that Ohio State is as elite as we think. They've played a bunch of nobodies, and, where was I? Oh, yes. If Tennessee beats Alabama today, I think that Tennessee could be a sleeper that goes to the college football playoff.
For sure. You beat Alabama. Wow. And
then they have to beat Georgia.
Yeah, but, okay, you take Bryce Young out. That the other quarterback is not Bryce Young.
Well, no one's Bryce Young.
But the kid is a good quarterback, but he's not close to Bryce Young. And Tennessee is really, really good and going to play with a super chip on their shoulder. So I feel like the stars are maybe aligned. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I don't think anyone would be super duper 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 shocked if, without Bryce Young, Alabama loses to Tennessee.
Yeah, and now another big question is the race for the Rose Bowl. Of course, we have 3 of the Big Ten teams, 3 of the biggest Big Ten teams. Only one can make it to the CFP, which most people think is Ohio State. I think it's Michigan or Ohio State, or maybe even Penn State.
Yeah, we're going to see.
But what about those other 2 teams? Both of them are going to have to race for the Rose Bowl, which is the biggest Big Ten.
So we're assuming that, notwithstanding Illinois being ranked and Minnesota leading the West, that they're not close.
No.
They're a distant second tier. Is there anyone who's the 4th best team in the Big Ten?
The 4th best team in the East, or just the Big Ten?
Just the Big Ten.
I would go Minnesota.
Huh.
But I don't think that they're a likely candidate just because the East is so much stronger than the West.
Yes.
And they're going to have to play the best team out of the East in
Yes.
the championship, which is basically a loss.
Right.
So, who's your pick for the Big Ten East? Ohio State?
That's so hard.
Yeah.
I really we're going to see today. If Penn State beats Michigan, Michigan's done for the CFP.
Yeah.
I think whoever emerges out of that trio.
These next 3 weeks are the most important 3 weeks in college football.
Is Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State all in the East?
Yes.
Whoever wins the Big Ten East is the CFP. Is getting to the CFP.
And you know what? Whoever wins the Big Ten East is the national champion. That's my pick.
Wow, bold.
Yes. Now, what about the Pac-12? That's the other end of the Rose Bowl. If USC wins the rest of their tough games, they're going to the CFP.
Okay, as you know, USC goes into Utah today, an underdog. Utah is a very tough place to play. USC has had a lot of trouble there. Utah is a very good team. Cam Rising is an excellent quarterback.
I wouldn't call him excellent, but he's a very solid quarterback.
You're disrupting my rant.
Anyways.
I barely started my rant.
Continue.
I read somewhere that Lincoln Riley was doing his best Lou Holtz imitation, meaning managing expectations and praising the other team to the sky going into the game. But, I've seen this movie before, and I'm very concerned that, Utah is, a very stout, very capable team that hasn't quite put the pieces together, but they're going to, today, play with ferocity and a giant chip on their shoulder. On the other hand, USC has also not completely put the pieces together. If you have the defense playing at peak and the offense playing at peak, then that would be a formidable, very formidable team. It's just that, when the offense is at peak, you're like, okay, this is an elite offense it's just an elite offense, period. Mm-hmm. When the defense is playing at peak, they still give up a huge number of big plays and gives you agita. It's just that sometimes they can be disruptive and have turnovers also. But it's not like they're going to shut Utah down.
No, they're not. They're going to make big plays, but I think that they'll hold together. I think that USC is going to win. We'll wait till the pick segment.
Are we going to have another push-ups bet on that?
No, that's about USC getting to the CFP on my end. Okay. Now we have Michigan, Penn State. I think that we've covered it. Well, actually,
we haven't
really, but
who's going to win?
Who's going to win? First of all, who's going to win the Pac-12? USC, yes. USC, CFP. That's my pick. Now it's up to Utah and UCLA.
Well, I'm sorry. If USC beats Utah, they're in a lovely position, but UCLA is what is going on there? They're really great all of a sudden, which is intolerable. And then Notre Dame could still show up because they're figuring, that guy Marcus is just figuring out how to be a head coach. There's some patsies on the cupcakes on the schedule after this, but even if USC beats Utah, they're super far from in the clear because they could sleepwalk through one of the 3 games and lose them because they're not paying attention and have their heads on wrong, or they could easily lose to UCLA or Notre Dame.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider it an easy loss, but I'd consider it more they need to watch out. Yeah, so my Rose Bowl prediction, get me right, Penn State, UCLA.
UCLA will win. UCLA beat Oregon?
No, that's next week.
That's next week? That's a big game.
Yeah, it is. Now, Michigan, Penn State. This one's a big one.
By the way, how happy am I that USC doesn't have to play Oregon or UW this year?
Oh, I bet you're pretty happy. I think they could beat Oregon. They're cocky. They're the so-called SEC of the West.
Yeah.
I call them the Southern Mississippi of the West because I think that's truly a more accurate name. So, who's going to win, Michigan or Penn State? It's in Ann Arbor.
What's your prediction?
It's going to be close. Truly, very close. I'm going to say Michigan. I just think that they have the advantage in the game.
I want Michigan to win, but I also want to curry the favor of next week's, we hope for, future podcast guest, Nittany Lions superfan Giuseppe G. Randazzo. So I'm going to pick for Penn State.
That's in 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah. We have a guest 2 weeks. Big one. So, now the return of Florida State. Maybe, maybe not. What do you think?
Well, you mean Florida State, Clemson?
Yeah.
Yeah, so is Florida State, could they maybe put it together?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, they're like a Utah or a USC right now. They had some tough, they were elite, like Pete Carroll, or I don't think Utah's really ever been elite before, but they're a USC type team. Pete Carroll, Jimbo Fisher, two very successful coaches.
Bobby
Bowden, yes. But then both those coaches leave, they fall into struggle, and that continues for a few years. And now they have two promising head coaches in Lincoln Riley and Mike Norvell. I think that they're similar teams.
Are we talking about Florida or Florida State?
Florida State. So, I mean, I really think that Florida.
And you hate Clemson.
I hate Clemson.
Why it just drives me crazy that you and me and Uncle Brent hate Clemson. Me and Uncle Brent hates Clemson for it's mild hate. It's more like disgust or contempt.
Yeah, that's the same with me.
He's not a Dabo fan.
Yeah, no.
I think that they're an exemplary program.
I mean,
they're elite.
I mean, I just don't like them because I just feel like they win.
Aren't you supposed to win?
Well, I mean, yeah, but they just win too much.
You want your teams to win too much.
Yes, that's true. And I just feel like I just find them annoying in general. I think that Florida State could pull the pieces together. Is it likely? So. We'll wait for the pick segment at the very end to see that one.
What do we got left? We're running out of time.
Alabama, Tennessee.
I picked Tennessee. If Bryce Young is sitting.
Even if Bryce Young is starting, Tennessee all the way.
That is just crazy talk. We're crazy people here.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the podcast is called Uninformed for a reason. Now on to your next pick, USC, Utah.
Well, as you know, I won't even be able to watch the game, and I expect Utah to win.
It's going to be another close one. I am going to put my Trojan helmet on. USC, but it's going to be close. Michigan, Penn State, who's going to win?
We did this. I said Penn State.
I say Michigan. And now, on to our last one, possibly the most difficult. Florida State, Clemson.
Oh, I picked Clemson.
As much as I hate to say it, Florida State doesn't have those pieces yet. I hate to say it, but Clemson's going to win this one. But it's going to be another close one. We have a good weekend of college football.
And Oklahoma State's going to beat TCU.
I think TCU is going to beat Oklahoma State. Now, we have a great weekend of football coming up. That is it. We will be back next week to cover some more big games.